Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today I have a very good friend with me who is going to bring a lot of value to our listeners and who's going to make a giant impact on you guys. And if you guys don't know who my guest is, you've pretty much just not been on LinkedIn and haven't been seeing anything about medical device because he is the dude when it comes to it. So I am happy to bring you Omar M. Khateeb.
That's right, baby. Jacob, it's a pleasure to be back on the show, or actually not back on the show. I feel like I've been on the show before because I listened to a lot of your episodes, but it's good to be on the show again. Is this the first time we're doing your show?
It's the first time we've been on the show. Like, this is what's funny is like you and I have done a lot of other stuff together.
We've done other stuff.
Yeah, but this is the first time we actually have you on the podcast to help our listeners. And so it's just, I'm excited to have it because again, it's been a long time in the making. And I know this is going to be an episode that actually just helps so many people because I'll let you do your intro and we'll get into the topic. But the one of the biggest things I get is people listen to the podcast and then they're like, oh, I have to have a LinkedIn to break into medical device sales. And I'm like, it would be smart. And it's how do you separate yourself? And that's what you've become the king at, the master. And so I'm really excited to have you share your knowledge and to help all of our listeners. But before we do that, can you kind of give us just a big overview of, just in case these people don't know who you are, tell them who you are and what you've done.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of the elevator pitch in terms of my background and everything and why your listeners should, even listen to my advice. So first and foremost, I want to start with who I really am. So I'm a proud husband and father. I have a wonderful wife named Ilkem, who we've been happily married and, in deeply in love every single day, more than the day before since 2018. Or 2017. I always mix up the dates. She gets upset about that. A beautiful baby boy named Bear Khan. He's 9 months old. If you're a young man who's listening to this, step number one is find a good woman, commit to her, work on your relationship, and then I would say really aim towards getting married sooner than later. Going out. I used to party a lot, and I had a quite a playboy life. I'll tell you what. Biggest waste of my time. So my recommendation is, find a good woman. They're hard to come by, get married, have kids. And if you're very driven to make money as an entrepreneur, nothing will accelerate you more than getting married, because then you have no reason to waste time going out to bars and clubs and everything, and then have a kid where you are just deeply motivated to be as successful as possible. So that's who I am. My background. So I'm a boy from Texas. I'm a first-generation immigrant. Dad's from Iraq. Mom's from Turkey. Went to the University of Texas, El Paso, studied biology and chemistry, went to medical school. Now, a lot of people say they went to medical school. They were just pre-med. I literally went to medical school. So I was pre-accepted on full scholarship to Texas Tech University, which I'm going to use that story because that was probably the greatest sale I've made in my life. And it's going to be a key point to your listeners about how to persuade psychologically in interviews. So I'm going to go into that framework shortly. But, a few years into medical school, I realized it wasn't for me, dropped out, started in the great world of medical device sales. Like many of your listeners, I literally was a medical student and had a great background. And man, I applied to so many places. I got rejected. People were like, oh, you got to start out in disposables or working in this or that. I just did not believe it. My first job in the industry, clinical sales rep for the first surgical robotic company in spine. It was Zor Robotics. Started off in sales, quickly promoted after a year into marketing because I was really good at market development. That company got acquired for $1.3 billion by Medtronic. And since then, I've gone into disruptive technologies such as robotics, artificial intelligence. I started a consumer fashion product at one point just to learn how to market better and do Facebook ads. Went into software. So I was in the SaaS industry for a year. And this kind of brings me to who I am today and what I do. A little over a year ago, when I finished my run in software, I was the first head of growth marketing in our industry. Went to SaaS. I was a head of growth there. Came back to our industry because I miss this industry. As many problems as it has and as frustrating as it is, I'll tell you, it's more rewarding in this industry because we're dealing with patient care, healthcare. It's high end. No one cares about marketing software and these things. Like the SaaS industries, I think it's overhyped. So when I came back, I just realized that I was tired of working for different companies and having to do song and dance to the board on how to market and sell. So I decided to start my own company with one mission, Jacob. And that's why, I was very excited to have you join my program and also to work more with you. I want to change how we sell and market in this industry. And I burned the boats on that. Whether it takes 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to happen. So my company, Khateeb & Co., works with medical salespeople and companies and startups to drive technology adoption and grow sales pipeline 100% through social media and digital channels. We have a award-winning show. Well, award-winning in my eyes. I mean, we won some awards, but it's kind of like some random thing. But like, I don't even know if it's like nobody really knows it. But it's called The State of MedTech. So on that show, we have like leaders like the former CEO of Medtronic, Bill George, Stryker president Jim Heath, investors like Antoine Papernick come on. And we do a lot of sales topics as well. And so my business is focused on working with medtech companies and then also helping salespeople who say, you know what, I want to be the 1% of sales reps to learn how to sell at scale and persuade at scale when it comes to technology option and everything. So that pretty much in a nutshell is who I am. And the reason why I'm on your show right now is aside from the fact that, you're in my program and I think you're one of the top guys in it. I've mentored so many people on how to design their LinkedIn profile so that they can get more interviews and persuade, but also the interview side as well. And last thing I'll mention, we'll jump into it. For me right now in my industry, in my business, aside from big medtech companies, startups, and sales reps, I also speak at our industry's most prestigious MedTech Investor Summit called the LSI Emerging MedTech Summit. 200 startups presenting, lots of investors and strategics. And so I advise investors and venture capitalists on their portfolio companies on how they should leverage LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, maybe a good place to start is why have a LinkedIn profile? Do you think that's a good place to start?
Yeah, I would love that because so just so you know, like when I'm talking to the listeners, we've talked about it. I do just want to make a comment as of this moment we are making this, when this will be released, you guys may be having trouble finding me on LinkedIn. There's some things going on. So if you do, reach out to me on Instagram. That's why we have different platforms. But when I do talk about it, you guys, LinkedIn is such an important place for us to get started. And most of my listeners don't even have a LinkedIn. And so I think it's why should we have a LinkedIn? What's so important about it in the medical device world and medtech world?
Totally. So let's frame this out so it's a really high level interview. Because you and I can just like, we should do another show where it's just kind of like the Omar and Jacob hour.
Chop it up, baby.
Chop it up. Yeah. So why I'm going to give you the history from a macroeconomic standpoint. Why should you have a LinkedIn profile? I'm going to move into some really tactical things where some of your listeners, I would recommend go back and open their LinkedIn and follow these steps. So like really high level steps on what they should do. And then those who stay to the very end, I'm going to give you the single-handedly the most powerful psychological tactic you can use to persuade and control an interview. I don't care if you're interviewing for a medical sales role, a SaaS role, whatever it is, or maybe you decide you want to go to medical school, this will work. Okay. So let's start with why have a LinkedIn. LinkedIn back in 2015, 2014 was acquired for $28 billion. To put that number in perspective, in 2015, you can buy NASA for $13 billion. You got acquired for a lot of money. Who acquired them? Microsoft. Why should you know that? First, if there's some companies that won't go away, they're like the most powerful companies on planet Earth. Google is one, Apple's another, Microsoft is the other. Just so people know how powerful Microsoft is the reason Apple still exists, because Bill Gates kind of saved Apple back in the day by investing in them and everything. So Microsoft is the platform for all things professional. They got Word, they got Outlook, they have Bing, the search engine, which sucks, but now it's actually a huge problem for Google's is they just signed a deal with ChatGPT, which is going to make things insane.
Yep.
So LinkedIn is being integrated into everything Microsoft, Outlook, etc. Right? It is their social platform and channel. I think last year by itself, LinkedIn brought in like $10 or $11 billion in revenue for Microsoft. The way that people should think about this, Jacob, do you remember back in 2008 when YouTube got acquired by Google?
Yep.
Okay. Did you have a YouTube channel back then?
I sadly did not.
I wish I did. Yeah, I did not either. And because back then everybody was like, "Oh, Google paid $1 billion for this for the do it your like the home movie website where you can upload home movies and look up do it yourself stuff." Gamers who just naturally were like, "Oh, I'll throw my videos up there." People without trying became multimillionaires. Their lives changed because of what YouTube did, which by the way, YouTube now does $1 billion in revenue every 2.5 weeks. LinkedIn's not going to do the same thing. LinkedIn's different, but LinkedIn's going to have the same effect for the professional world. I know investors, venture capitalists, CEOs, they have no social media except LinkedIn. If you go Google my name, I've been in this game for a long time, content game that is. I have podcasts, YouTube channels, etc. The number one hit that comes up on Google search is LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is the number one most trusted platform and most secure platform of all of them. If you think about it, have you ever had an issue with LinkedIn in terms of trolls, fake accounts, negativity? None. I've had even people who I know who have hundreds of thousands of followers on other channels who said, yeah, right now I feel like the only social media that's actually says something about you is if you have a big following on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Right. Those are the main reasons to have a LinkedIn, because right now, if you're doing something professional, you want to make, like, if you want to make any serious, unless you're a billionaire, and even those guys are getting on LinkedIn, not having LinkedIn is like the sketchiest thing, and not having a bad LinkedIn is worse. So yep. Let me step back. Any questions so far? Because we'll jump into like how to design the LinkedIn.
No, yeah, no, and I think that's a great background. I think the question that's going to come out is like, okay, I understand that, but why do I need it for medical device sales? Why is it? We always talk about it's kind of like your online resume, right? And so that I think that's the question that really comes in a lot of times.
So the reason why is the med device industry is now functioning by sourcing people directly from LinkedIn. Okay, that's where all recruiting and hiring is happening. Plus, you got somebody like me where I've invested every penny I got, and I'm driving a stake through the industry to change things, including bringing all these physicians onto LinkedIn. So every day every 30 days I analyze physician activity on LinkedIn. More and more physicians not only have profiles on LinkedIn, I actually have data showing that anywhere from 5 to 15% of all physicians are actively creating original content on LinkedIn. I know physicians who are leaving Twitter and spending more time on LinkedIn because it's more conducive for clinical discussions, right? So between those things, the fact that I'm going and telling investors they need to evaluate their companies to have digital strategies, and then companies are all saying, we can't get into the hospital anymore. They're not going to get their reps to go use Instagram and Twitter and stuff. They should. But the one thing that is actually powerful for driving pipeline, it's LinkedIn.
Yep.
So not only helps you get the job, but once you're in the job, it'll help you be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the absolute truth, you guys. I just say this because the thing is like, let's make it to layman's terms for when you guys are on. If you're on Instagram and you're in college or you're 25 and right now, and you go find somebody and you hear a name, the first thing you do is you go search them on Instagram. But if they have 4 followers and like some picture you can't really tell, you're like, this person's fake. This isn't a real person. The exact same thing happens on LinkedIn when people are reaching out to managers or reps or people. When they hear a name, they're going to be like, who's this person? And if you don't have a LinkedIn, or you have 3 followers and a bad picture, they're going to be like, is this even a real person?
I'm so happy you made that point. Let me bring up a way that people should think. And what some of your viewers who are on YouTube, they'll see us, but on podcasts, they don't. I'm sitting in my library. The shelf behind me, there's 2 shelves. All they are psychology and persuasion. The human brain has not evolved to know the difference between certain things, because like the internet didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Your brains didn't evolve. So right now, you and I are communicating through the digital world. I'm in the physical world. Notice I said digital and physical, not digital and real world. They're both real. The brain doesn't know the difference between these things. There's no separation, which also means, let's look at your hiring manager. Your hiring manager is a consumer, meaning they buy things from Amazon and, eBay and these things. Let's just use Amazon, for example. If I'm Omar and I'm friends with Jacob, and Jacob, I tell you, dude, you should buy, I don't know, this wallet. Dude, I freaking love this thing. And I'm like, it's this wallet, and you go look it up on Amazon and you go to the product page and there's like 7 reviews. It doesn't matter how great the wallet is. Like you're like, I'm not going to buy this.
Yep.
So when you go to an Amazon page, think about what, like if you go to a well-established brand on Amazon, they have hundreds, if not thousands, reviews. Then if you go deeper, they have like product features. Then they upload their own pictures of the product. Then you go to the bottom, you see what people have to say about the product, videos and everything, because they don't know who lands on that page. What do they need from a persuasion standpoint to say, I want to buy this product?
Yep.
When someone lands on your page as a potential hiree, you have no idea. Do they want to see your about section? Maybe they want to see your recommendations. You need to make sure everything is engineered in there so that they say, oh, I'll buy this product. Yep. So like the very first step on your LinkedIn is you need to go to your privacy settings, go to the visibility, unlock everything, because some people are not logged into LinkedIn. Sometimes when they Google search you, or maybe they're not a connection, you don't want it so that if they're a second or third connection, meaning they're not directly connected with you, they end up seeing a grayed out photo. You want everything visible. Okay. And before I go into, I'm going to give you guys, give your audience like 3 secrets to their LinkedIn profile. It's going to help a lot. And then we'll talk a few other tactics and we'll get into the interview. But Jacob, I want to show you a book. And for the people who are just listening, I'm holding up a book and it's got a red cover. It's just a blank red cover. And the name of the book is How to Design Things Really Well. Do you want to buy that book? Like maybe. Now I'm going to add this cover. So the cover is this glossy white cover. At the top, there's an endorsement, a quote from Guy Kawasaki. It's like, if you want to evangelize and enchant people, you must influence their memories. This book shows you how to do it. Okay, so there's a testimonial there. The name of the book, Impossible to Ignore. Great title. Subtitle, Creating Memorable Content to Influence Decisions. Then you have a few butterflies that are white, and then this really bright red butterfly that's red in the middle. Okay. The book has not changed. It's the same book. It's the same content. I dramatically changed it. And so the exciting thing for your viewers, your listeners who are trying to get a job, you were them a few years ago. I was them 10 years ago. Yep. The great thing is that some people, they're like, oh, maybe I need to go to XYZ sales college, or maybe I need to go get this certification, everything. You don't have to do anything, my friends. The best part about selling and persuasion is that you can just change the wrapper and you got a completely different product.
Preach, baby. It's the absolute truth.
Thoughts. Give me some feedback.
No, yeah, man.
If you disagree, tell me.
No, and I totally agree, because this is what we talk about, right? Because what you just said, I think, is the punchline, right? Because it's what I always tell people. You're going to just need one person to take a shot on you. You need one person to see that book cover and how you are. But how people are going to see it is very different. And we know that we can make a change in a macro level to actually get you a better results. Like, for example, when we talk about so many people reach out, they don't know up from down in medical device sales. They're like, hey, I want to get into it. They found my podcast. They listened to a couple episodes, and then they're like trying to reach out, call. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is you just don't have enough information. And what we always talk about in the course and everything is why people do it is we're going to give you the layout, right? Because you just don't know what you don't know. And that, not in a mean way, but like it's just you, right? When you went to go do the job you're doing now, or you went to go to school, that's why you went to school. You didn't know what you were doing. Exact same reason for why you're doing what you're doing. When people are trying to get persuaded, when people are out reaching out to people, most of the time, they don't know what they're doing, right? They've never been in the sales position. They've never known, like what you just said, somebody was like, I've never thought about it that way. And that's why it's so true, because again, when I was going through the interview process, everyone would say, you don't have sales experience. That's a negative. Until I said, I totally hear where you're coming from, but this is why it's a positive. And was able to handle it and turn it into a positive. Like you said, there can be 2 same stories, but how they're told will get 2 different outcomes.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And again, like I just got it, like, again, shameless plug, but this is why when people reach out to me, I give some free advice, but I tell them, like, look, free advice is only going to get you so far. The people who are serious about their company, about what they're doing, make the investment. This is why I tell people, I'm like, look, go take Jacob McLaughlin's course, because aside from the fact that you have just insane results, like, look, most of the people who are listening to this right now, could they go through all of your podcasts and all your content and then string something together and then get like land a job? Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of people who have done that.
Yep.
The question though, and this is the difference between like great entrepreneurs and then everybody else, is for you to say, well, I could do that. How long is that going to take me? You have no idea how long is it. And then on top of it, sequencing is everything. I play a lot of chess. Okay. The sequence of your moves is everything. So if I, move a pawn up, up a square or two, and I bring a queen out, right? That's very different than another sequence. If let's say, I don't know, if you and I do the exact same thing, the same sequence of events, right? Let's say, from selling to all these, let's say we do the exact same thing, except I wake up 30 minutes before you. There's a compounding effect to that.
Yep.
Right. And so my biggest thing to people, whether it's they're trying to get hired for a job or anything else, yeah, try and do things on your own. But if you have an opportunity to say, I can spend, and again, I don't know how much your program is now, but like $1, $2, $3, $4, $5,000, yeah, that's a lot of money. But then if you say, well, if I do that and this will accelerate my time to value, and then that'll increase my income by 15%. That's not 15% for 1 year. That's a compounding effect over the next 5 or 10 years, which can result to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you touched on that, because we talk about this all the time right now. Because I say this, there's a reason I did this for free for so long, and I had it. It's the reason I did the course now. But I have 130 episodes, 135. You can go watch them. You can go listen to them for free. But most of you guys just won't. And then even if you have them, they're so general, you'll be like, oh, this makes sense. But what about when the manager asked me this? And then that's the most common messages I get. Now, what do I do when it's specific, right? Because you guys want all the free help, but then it turns into this. Then it's like, okay, now I broke into the industry. The most common message I get now what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
And this, it just keeps going. And I can sit here and tell you, like, this is why I can sit here and smile. Yeah, our course to some people seems expensive, but when I can sit here and tell you, we now at 9.6 weeks get a 30x return on initial investment. And then if you stay in, you're going to get over 100x. We know what the ROI is. And then my last thing I always tell people, this is what I get on the calls. You guys, every single person who's listening, you're trying to get on, because I do a lot of driving. You guys are trying to merge onto the freeway with your eyes closed and a bandana over it, covering your eyes. You don't know what to expect. You don't know where you're going. And you're just praying to God you don't hit into these things, and you're hoping you get to the destination safe. But when you come with somebody who's already done it, helped over 800 people do this on a daily basis, already got 3 people hired just today, and those are the text messages I get through our program. It's like, I'm giving you a giant windshield with a sunny day, and I'm Siri telling you, hey, there's a detour up ahead. You're going to take this left, and you're going to get at your destination actually a couple minutes faster.
Let me ask you a question. What is the average starting salary of somebody that you help get hired? I want to do a little math right here.
Yeah. So my average person I get hired is at $91,000.
$91,000. I'm gonna be like even more aggressive, and let's just make it less. Let's just say it's $75,000.
Yep.
Okay. So let's just say 75. Okay. And so let's say the person you usually help, on average, would you say their salary is what, like 50K, 60K?
Yeah, I would say between $45,000 and $60,000.
Okay, let's just go with $60,000. Okay, so I'm making these numbers worse for you, not better. Okay, so the difference between 75 and 60, okay, is what? $15,000. Okay, $15,000. Okay, so let's do $15,000 divided by 12. It's $1,250, $1,250 per month. Okay, let's say, I don't know what your program costs, but let's say it's in a few $1,000s, right? The thing is, every month that goes by that you're wasting screwing around, you're not losing $1,250. It's more than that, because it's the cost of lost opportunities.
Yep.
Right. And then that stuff adds up. And so the last thing I'll say, and we'll kind of move on from this topic, because I wish somebody told me these things the way I'm talking when I was starting out in the industry. It took me until 6, 7, 8 years in where I realized, you know what, this is very much worth my time. It started with me buying books, and I started buying courses, and I'm like, man, every time I buy something that costs a lot of money, like when I lost my job in 2015, I invested in this program that Seth Godin is a really world famous marketer, called the Alt MBA. I lost my job. I had a mortgage to pay. I was running out of money. I spent $3,000 on this program. So back then, there's a lot of money.
Yep.
It was the best investment I ever made. And since then, like every time I spend money, I have this thing now, like I spend more and more money on education and programs. And again, do your due diligence, make sure you're getting the right one. Every single time, it's like the more money I spend, somehow, like I guess because I turned the knowledge into action immediately.
Yep.
And my income seems to keep going up.
Yeah, it's 100% what happens. So I always tell people the reason I can be so confident and I talk about this is I was a personal trainer, right? And so this is what I can sit here and tell you. When I charged $30 for a half hour, half of my people didn't show up. They didn't care. They didn't get results because there was no accountability. But the moment I doubled that, it was $60 a half hour. I doubled my clientele. Everybody showed up and the results were way quicker because at $30, they just throw it away, right? But at $60, that's enough pain to make them actually be like, oh no, I need to do this, right? And so I can sit here. It's why I get mentors. It's why I get people, because if I was to do it on my own, yes, I could probably get it done. But I know by getting mentors and people that have already done it, I'm just saving a lot of time and I'm saving a lot of money because of what you exactly just said.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go through all the heartache. I don't have to do it. And guess what? You've already been there and been able to go through it. So guess what? You're just going to get me there that much quicker. And that's what people, I just want to touch on this point real quick. That's why people always miss it. You guys think of the dollar bill. You think of like how much money. And again, I've been there. I made a post 5 years ago, $1,200 to my name, 6 years ago, $66 to my name. I know what it's like to be literally broke, put groceries back. But at the same respect, I can sit here and tell you, when you guys are going and paying for your mechanic or you're paying for a plumber, you're not paying because that person fixed the job and they did it in 5 minutes, but you got a big bill and now you're mad. You didn't pay for the 5 minutes. You paid for the 20 years of experience that it took for that plumber to understand
to do it in 5 minutes.
And to do it in 5 minutes.
That's exactly
know
correct.
that it's right instead of you can go try it on your own. You can go pay someone who's cheaper. But I always say this, and this hopefully resonates with everybody. You can go to Target and Dollar General and still get toilet paper. But the experience is going to be way different and the quality of the products are going to be way different. And you just decide what you want, right? And then again, when you're looking at the future, that's when, like, I can sit here and with a smile on my face, we know in under 12 weeks, we get a 30x return on investment. These people get placed. I can sit here and tell you you'll hear associates need to go work for 2 years to be an associate and go be a TM. I've had 3 people in the last month message me. They were through our program, and in under 6.5 months, they are full line reps. We show you how to like just break through and do all of it because we've done it. We've lived it. I've done it with 800 people. I literally sit here. My dog's sleeping on the ground. I can get my dog an interview. Like that's not hard at all.
I believe it. And and here I'll say this one last thing, and we'll jump to like the next. So the next thing is like what they should do on their LinkedIn. And then again, for those who stay to the end, the last part, which is the hypnotic psychology trick that I used to get myself into medical school with the lowest MCAT score of my entire class on full scholarship, by the way. That's worth staying to the end for. One thing I'll say is that everybody worries about the cost of investing in a coach, buying a program and everything. Very few people start to think and worry about the cost of being in the exact same place a year from now. And even if you take the free advice you get on here, you're able to get those interviews and everything. There are parts about navigating those interviews to make sure that you squeeze. Like, look, just because you're new and getting into the industry doesn't mean you can't get a little bit more salary than you should be getting, 100%. Right? So there's a whole level to that. So,
yeah.
Anyways, let's go to the next step. Okay, so let's get into some just high level tips on what to do with your LinkedIn. Okay, so keep in mind, think of LinkedIn like this: is that your LinkedIn page is a product page for you. Okay, just like an Amazon product page. So when someone lands on it, maybe it's an investor and they're like, "Oh, this person is in this area, we should hire them." Like I'll tell my portfolio to hire them, or it's a hiring manager. So whoever lands on it, you want the persuasion to be there. So the most important thing on LinkedIn is to grow your network. There's an effect called a network effect, which billion-dollar companies have used to grow, like Facebook and Google, where essentially the more connections you have within a network, the more leveraged it is, the more valuable it becomes, right? And so what your thing is to go and connect, number one, with hiring managers, connect with people who work for the hiring manager, all these things, so that when you comment on their content or you post anything or you comment on other people's content, more people are getting more advertisements, aka they're seeing notifications of you online, and you need to stay in front of them. The most important and simple approach about persuasion is that before you persuade anybody to buy something from you, to hire you, etc., you have to get attention. Okay. Now, how do you do that so that's memorable and you convert? The three most important things: your photo and banner, your headline, and your name. Let's start with the name. You can't change your name unless you have like a, an RN or MBA and everything. You can always add that to the end, and that's fine. By the way, don't think that getting those are going to help you get hired, by the way. So please don't waste money there. Okay. But your name is persuasive. There's a cognitive bias called the liking effect, meaning that if you're like me, I will like you. Or if you're also attractive, that's also a liking effect. But for example, if your name is Jacob and you're connecting with a hiring manager named Jacob, there's a higher chance they'll actually just accept your request because you have the same name. Or let's say the last name is Jacobson, right? Again, there's a liking effect. So that way, look at your name, and based on who, your name, if you find people with similar name like you and they're hiring managers, add them. Okay. Let's move next to the banner and photo. Okay. What I'm about to say next is probably going to get me canceled, but I don't care. I don't care to be politically correct. I care to be effective. Okay. There was a study done out of University of Pennsylvania on photos, okay, and what was persuasive. So if you're a woman, you can smile as big as you want in a photo. You will achieve the goal of being authoritative and approachable. If you're a man, I don't care if you look like Brad Pitt. If you smile too much, you will look creepy and unapproachable. So start there. So if you're a man, how should you smile? Slightly raise your eyebrows, give a medium smile. So this is a big smile. There's this little smile, just nice, even smile. Okay. If you go look at like president's photos, those are good examples. Okay. The next thing is that the left or right side of your face makes a difference. Try and hide and show the left side of your face. So don't be, remember, the digital world and physical world are the same thing. So women can take a photo where their shoulders are facing forward and everything. That's not aggressive. If you're a guy and your photo is you're facing forward, that looks a little aggressive. Now, Jacob's photo is like that, but Jacob has it differently where he's zoomed out a little bit. It's a very professional photo. That's okay. All right. And again, these are very subtle cues. So with your iPhone, take a photo where you're turned slightly, you're showing the left side of your face. If you're like me, where you part your hair to the right, obviously the left side, I don't like my left side because my hair is parted away from it. I take my photo and I actually just flip it. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile photo, that's a flipped photo. The left side of the face conveys more emotion, and it's considered more persuasive. Okay. Make sure the photo is bright, make sure it's good lighting, and look like you give a damn. Okay. Like, I don't want to see, do not use a photo of you at a wedding, even though you're dressed up. It shouldn't be a homecoming photo. It shouldn't look like a photo from MySpace. I don't care what it is. And however you look in real life, you need to look in this photo. So in real life, okay, or in the physical world, okay, if you have a beard, that photo needs to have a beard. If you wear glasses most of the time, or you wear glasses on your video, you need to look the same. The brain can't have these two things that are different. Okay. It just makes it easier. Now, your banner, because most of you are trying to get hired, you want to convey immediately, hey, I can fit in the world of medicine. So go on Google and just type in like MedTech LinkedIn banner or biotech banner or whatever. Just put something that, has like surgeons and tech stuff in it or whatever, or put something nice. Just put something there. It cannot be that gray bar. Okay. Yep. Now, the very last thing is your headline. This is the most important thing because this is really the tagline for you. Now, before I tell you the most important part, which is the first few words, let's talk about the end of it. At the end of your headline, you can put things like medical device sales, former athlete. For me, I put proud husband and father, avid reader, jujitsu. Why do you want to put that? You don't want the interview to convey like your hobbies and things that are different about you. Multi-million-dollar marketing lesson here. You don't market features and benefits about how something is better. You market how something is different. So put those things in. Look, when I say proud husband and father, that conveys what? Quality, character, values. Avid reader, intelligence, right? Jiu-jitsu, interesting, fitness, right? So you can put whatever you want. Put that you're an amateur golfer. Put that you were a former, college cheerleader. I don't care, but put things that you're proud of, things that you're willing to talk about, that you can translate. Like for Jacob, I think for a while you had like that you're a trainer, right? You can translate it over and say, hey, when I work with surgeons, I know how to coach people.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so you're translating it. Now, the last part, and then let me take a break because I've been rambling here for a while, is the very first few sentences. In marketing, in copywriting, there's a concept called the one belief. I call it the one belief. The one belief means that it's a noisy world. People are going to forget like who you are. So you have like one chance to give them a belief about you.
Yep.
So for a company, that framework, again, multi-million-dollar lesson here for free, is a new mechanism that satisfies an existing desire or relieves an existing pain through a special and unique mechanism. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me break that. A new opportunity that satisfies a desire or relieves a pain through a new mechanism. So let me give you an example of new opportunity plus existing desire, existing pain plus new mechanism. Let's look at Subway. Subway sandwiches. This is their one belief. Eating healthy fast food. See how that gets your attention? That new opportunity, eating healthy fast food. Okay. What's the existing desire pain? Is the key to losing weight and staying in shape. Okay. And what's the new mechanism? And it's only possible through Subway sandwiches. Now, how do you translate that to you as an individual? You need to convey something unique, or at least attention grabbing, for a desire of a higher manager. So one thing I tell people is just have something like helping medtech companies drive product adoption at scale, right? Or one of the guys who's now working for me, he had something where it was like using the superpower of cold calling to sell at scale. And like that caught my attention immediately. So think about like, what is somebody trying to hire for?
Yep.
Right. So, and again, like shameless plug, but like, this is why, like, instead of you figuring this out on your own, like just go take Jacob's course and stop messaging, and please stop messaging me about it. Cause I'm not going to, I have too many people to deal with to spend time answering these messages. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. Well, since you just brought that up, I will just do a quick shout out to all my people. Just so you guys know, everybody that you reach out to, that you send messages is saying, hey, you were on Jacob's podcast, but I know he has his course, but I'm too cheap and I don't want to take it. Will you just give me all your free advice? Just so you know, all of those reps that you reach out to, call me and tell me that. They tell me your guys' names and they're like, no, I don't have time to get on every single call with these cheap people, because we already know that where it's going for. And again, you have to remember, everybody you're reaching out to is extremely busy and they're doing stuff. And again, this is where I can just sit here and tell you, like, it's why we've gotten actually more selective in the course, is we don't deal with people who aren't serious, because I can sit here and tell you, if you're trying to cut corners and you're trying to do all this and you're not taking anything serious, you're not going to be a good rep.
You know what it is? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I tell people all the time, I'm like, like when I used to have more time and I would get on the phone with people and they're like, man, this is really hard. I'm like, you think this is hard? You think this is abuse? I'm like, wait till you're trying to call on a surgeon where like everyone, their mother's trying to get a hold of them. I was like, you think this is hard?
Yeah.
And again, like what some people are looking for is that they're like, man, I don't want to pay money for that thing, everything. Look, what you offer, Jacob, is like it's like people want to like get bodybuilding shape, and you offer like the program and the gym and everything, and people are like, man, there's got to be just a pill that I take that'll just get me jacked.
100%.
And that's what they're messaging. That's what they're messaging me for. They're wanting like a secret like thing, or of course it's like, oh, I will absolutely recommend you. Like, no, I'm not going to recommend you. I don't know you.
No, exactly. And that's what we always say. Like, all these people just want free handouts. And again, you're going to people who've killed themselves to get in those same spots. And then you're asking for a free handout and you want them to do it. And the easiest thing I can say, I'm just going to say, because again, we've been on this plug, so this is going to go for the people who just do this. And I heard a great thing by Alex Hermosi, and he was like, if somebody came up to you and they said, hey, there's a Lamborghini and it's $5,000, not the regular 500 grand, guess what? Everyone and their mother would find a way how to do it and get it purchased. They would get a loan. They would go reach out. They would do it because they want that. But when somebody says, no, they don't want to take it, or they don't want it, they just don't see the value in it. And that's okay. Like, if you say, oh, I don't get it, but it's why I can sit here and tell you, everybody who reaches out to those people and say the same thing, they can take 6+ months easy. And I can sit here and say our average person breaks in 12 plus or in under 12
Yeah.
weeks. And then like our average person is doing over, like we're at 91 grand. The last 3 people I've placed at are all over 100 grand. And again, I've got people in under 6 months go from making 60 to 80 to 100 grand to now making $200,000 because they're full line reps. And again, it's just what do you want out of it? And then we just say this because since I'm on the talk, I made a podcast about who you have as a coach matters, because I can sit here and tell you, everyone will hear someone say, "Oh, I made $140,000 in medical device sales," and you, because you only make 60 grand, you think that's a lot. But when you realize that $177,000 is the average, you realize that person actually sucks. But you're taking advice from someone who's not even average. So if you want to actually learn how to be above average, you want to learn how to make 2, 3, 400 grand. I can sit here and say, great, know how to do it because I've done it. So you want to learn how to do it? I can teach you how to do it because I've done it. Going back to the whole point of having a mentor, I just go and pay those people because I'm just trying to save the time. I go pay millionaires. Again, I'm very lucky to be here in Scottsdale, Arizona, but I can go pay millionaires to find out how to be a millionaire. And I'm like, what do you do? Just help me. Because I know eventually I'd be a millionaire. But guess what? It might take me 12 to 15 years compared to they'll be like, here, I'll tell you what to do. And it can take you up 5.
That's exactly right. No, that's exactly right. And again, like what I tell people is like, look, for the amount of time you're going to waste, either not, because very few people are diligent enough to just do the thing on their own.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can waste time and maybe it'll take you 6 or 9 months. And let's say you do break in. Okay, great. But then you have 6 or 9 months extra that total, like you essentially pissed away $10, $15, $20,000 because you didn't want to pay like a few $1,000 to like go through a program, get coached, and get in like 12 weeks.
And
like,
here's the other part. Those people get in, they take a job for $62,000 or 55 grand because they were
at a bad company.
At a bad company, and they didn't know what the situation was. They didn't know about the we help with negotiation. They didn't know about car stipends. They didn't know about all this stuff.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That you just reminded me. I talked to somebody who wanted to take your course, but of course they were cheap. They ended up at like a really lousy company. And because they're a med rep now, that's why they're looking at my program. And I remember telling them, I was like, so they're like, I'm at this terrible company and everything, and like it sucks, and like they were paid like terrible. Like it's just a dump of a company.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, well, that's great that you got in. She's like, oh yeah, like, I actually, it's thanks to Jacob McLaughlin. I'm like, oh, you went through this program. She's like, no, I looked at this program. I'm like, oh, so how did you get in? He's like, well, I just like used this podcast and everything. And I made a point to her. I'm like, look, in this situation, like with your current job to make more money and like leverage into a better one, you can listen to my stuff for free and like it might happen, or you can do the smart thing and realize that you made a stupid decision in the past by not going through this program. I literally talked to her like this. I was like, you didn't go through this program. Here you are in this situation. Don't repeat that same mistake again. Like you should pony up and go through my program because it's going to make your life a lot easier. It didn't end up converting. And guess what? There are people in my program who there's a few. I did like one time an associates deal. So I have like a group of associates. All of them are getting promoted. It's their first year. And actually one of them, two of them got poached. One of them got, who was at a small company. He got picked up by Intuitive Surgical.
Yep.
This whole thing of like, oh, you need to be an associate for 2 years. All these people like, and again, whether they're through your program or they end up, let's say they're later in career, they come through mine.
Yep.
Just like, I don't get it, man.
This is what I can just sit here and tell you guys, because it's always the easiest. Like the last 10 people I've gotten, let me just, because everyone's like, oh, who do you get hired? Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, Intuitive, Nuvasive, Medline, BD, like all those names I just mentioned is everyone who's like, oh, those are my favorite. But you guys are going to go to a small company that pays you $42,000 because you're like, oh, I'm just trying to get into med device sales. And then my favorite part is, like I keep just saying, you guys are going to go in, not know what you're doing, do exactly what Omar just said, get in, be a full line rep making $52,000, where my associate Kyle just got in 7 weeks and making 110 grand and already has offers to go after he does this for 6 months to go make 250. But again, helping him through the whole process, and you guys just are too cheap because you're like, oh, I'm going to do it out. But it's why, but again, I actually am happy for those people, and this will make it easy for everyone. I'm happy because I know you'll never be successful. You'll never actually crush it. And let me just say this. When I say that, that's not me being a dick of saying like, oh, hey, you're never going to make it. Yeah, you might make a couple $100,000, but guess what? My people are going to make 700 grand. My people are going to be CEOs. My people are going to be VP, because guess what? That's what I'm going to be. Like, I can sit here and say that, and people will be like cocky, all this stuff. Great. Don't care, because I drive my own race. And again, if you don't want to do it, Great. That's actually, just so you know, and I'll say this and then we can move on, is I've actually turned away 8 people in the last 3 days because I now no longer want people who aren't committed. If you,
They're not worth it, dude. It's
no,
not worth the money. I do the same thing in my program.
it's the amount
Why
of
do you think?
energy.
Yeah, we talked about this. I was like, why do you think in my so and by the way, just for context, so Jacob went through my program and now he's on a monthly subscription getting one-on-one coaching with me, which has helped his business.
Yep.
But I told Jacob the same thing. I was like, I used to allow people to just literally sign up for my program, charge a credit card and join in. I got rid of that because I don't want any more people who are going to pay a bunch of money, get in my program, don't do anything with it, because then they walk around saying, oh yeah, I joined Omar's program, I didn't get anything out of it.
Well, I can sit here and tell you, certain sales colleges, well, that's what those people do.
Certain sales colleges.
Yeah, they'll go and do $15,000 to $20,000, talk about in class, how much money are we going to make? And then nobody wants to hire them. They're lazy. They quit within the first couple of months because they don't know what they're doing.
And to be fair, I have a couple of people from said sales college in my program, and they're great. Here's the problem though, is that college has created its own like brand that has a negative reaction from hiring managers. And so that's what you're paying for it, because you could be great, but you just, you got the wrong brand behind it. So anyways,
exactly. Let's move on to the next one.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So now just last thing I'll say about your LinkedIn profile, outside of that, and you can go to my LinkedIn profile as an example, go to Jacob's because he went through my course. You got to design all these things into your profile, your featured section, your about section, get recommendations. A great way to get a recommendation is don't ask for one. Go write a recommendation for somebody you admire, somebody you mentored, somebody who you used to work with. Again, it doesn't matter. And then send them a message, say, hey, I would love for you to write a recommendation. I wrote one for you. Let me know if you want to add anything. But then tell them exactly what you want them to write in yours. Because if you don't, they're just going to write whatever the hell they want. Or even better, just write it out. Say, hey, here's what I'd like for you to say. You can copy, paste this, or edit it. Last thing, and this is going to go into the final topic, which is the persuasion involved in the interview. Yeah. Okay. Your about section is not a regurgitation of your resume. Okay. So in your LinkedIn profile, do not save the good. Let me tell you how stupid advice this is. Some people, I don't know who, are giving the advice of, hey, don't put your awards and don't put all these details in your LinkedIn. Put it in your resume so people ask for it. That's as stupid as me selling a product. Like if Apple came out and said, hey, all these cool features about the iPhone, don't put it on the landing page. Put it in a PDF that people have to ask for. That would be the dumbest marketing advice. So that's what you're doing. Put all the details in your LinkedIn, because when somebody's on there, which your goal right now, nobody's going to hire you on experience because you have none. What you want people to do is between what they read about your background, your about section, maybe the posts you feature, you want to create, and this is the most persuasive thing in the world, is using someone's imagination. Think about this. Think about the last horror movie you went to go see, like a trailer of a scary movie. The trailers are always scarier than movies. Why? Because when they show a horror movie trailer, they'll play like a sound, a growling sound, or they show a tough day. You never see the monster, because then you're using your imagination to manufacture the scariest thing to you. And that's happening to every single person on an individual level. It's the same thing with your LinkedIn profile, which is you want a hiring manager to land on there. Maybe they go to your about section and maybe they just jump to your recommendations. Between those two things, or let's say it's a combination of your featured posts and something else, you want their imagination to go to work so they can visualize who you can become for them 1 year from now. And then they say, I'm going to take a bet on this person, because like they have the elements, just like somebody did that with Jacob. Medtronic did that with Jacob, right? They have the elements. And now you give them an imagination of a vision of who you could be. Okay. Make sense? So now let's get into the interview, and this will be the last section. Okay. For context, this is the greatest sale I've ever made in my life. And I made a lot of them. And that sale was, the punchline to it is, so getting into medical school is the most difficult thing you can do. It's like 0.01% of people get in. Okay. Not only did I get into medical school, I got onto a US-based medical school, very hard, an MD program, and I got pre-accepted, meaning early acceptance, on full scholarship. And I had the lowest MCAT score. So the MCAT is the standardized test you get. Lowest MCAT score in my class. I think I might have been one of the lowest MCAT scores they interviewed. And I came from a state school. How the hell did I do that? Okay. So I got this interview. I had It was at the end of November, which is the end of interview season. I had one interview for medical school. Usually you're supposed to have a few. I had one, and I interviewed on the very last day. So they already got exposure to all these other candidates. Okay. And so going into the interview, I don't know how I figured this out, but I was smart enough to realize that if I go in and they ask me about my MCAT score, I'm screwed. Just like if you guys go into your interviews and they say, "Oh, you don't have any sales experience, or you are screwed." Okay. So I decided, I was like, I got to control the interview. How am I going to control the interview? Because they have their questions. And then I somehow figured, I don't know what I read. I figured out that in every interview, no matter who I talk to, everybody's going to start out the same way by saying, "Hey, tell me about yourself." In which case, a lot of people just rush through that because they're like, let's get into the questions. If you get into the questions and you're sitting back and just answering questions, you're losing. You're straight up losing, and you're playing Jeopardy at that point. You have no idea what they're going to ask you.
Yep.
And so rather than me doing the stupid thing of like studying questions and trying to guess what, I just studied one thing, which is how do I pitch myself?
Yep.
So when I pitched myself, okay, this is literally what I said. This is my like 10, 15-second pitch. It was something like, my name's, thanks for asking. My name's Omar Khateeb. I'm a first-generation American. I was born here in El Paso, Texas. My dad's an Iraqi surgeon. My mom's from Turkey. Growing up, I've always been obsessed with medicine and science, and I loved science as a kid, and I wanted to use science as a tool, which is what made me interested to go to medicine. I went to University of Texas, El Paso. There, because I have a value of working hard, I took extra classes. So instead of stopping at 30 credits for honors, I got 60 honors credit. I was a homecoming king. And then throughout college, because I value hard work, I worked 3 jobs throughout college, despite the fact that, my dad is a doctor. And one of my interests in coming to the school is because this school is a new curriculum. And while this is not how physicians were taught medicine, this is actually how they learn medicine. And that's why this is my number one choice. In that thing, unless they're a robot, they were going to ask me about my dad being a surgeon, or like, this thing or that thing. So how does that translate to you guys? Okay. So again, I did that with everybody in this interview. There's a whole lot of psychology behind how I carried myself, what I wore, all these other things. But essentially the next day, I'll never forget this. It was like a miracle. I got pre-accepted, meaning when they really want a candidate, they send a pre-acceptance letter to get you before the springtime when everybody gets acceptance letters. So I got that. And then 1 month later, I got a full scholarship offer. Insane. Okay. So now how does that translate to you guys? Right. The first thing is that your about section needs to be a story. Go to my profile and read my about section. It's a story of where you grew up, your values, your hobbies, all these things. Yeah. Bake in some professional highlights, but it's really about painting a vision and an image of who you are as a person. Once you do that, and by the way, if you go to my profile and look, it's a long about section, but I space it out into sentences so it's easy to read. Everybody reads it when they click see more. From that, see, your audience is like, I'm giving them the good stuff here. You're going to take that about section. So write a long about section. Then you're going to go to OpenAI, go to ChatGPT. Okay. And this is what and if you don't know what ChatGPT is like the hottest thing. It's an open source artificial intelligence chatbot. You're going to tell ChatGPT, pretend you're the most persuasive interviewer in the world. Create a persuasive and concise 30-second pitch from this. And then you're going to copy paste that thing and hit enter. And ChatGPT will take this long thing and make it super short to be 30 seconds. And you can talk to ChatGPT and say like, make the sound more professional, do this. Start using these tools. Just by doing what I just said, like you're in 0.001% of professionals, okay? Now, when you go to your interview, sure, you should do things like, again, I know, Jacob, you covered this in your podcast, but like, research the company, look at product, read some papers, have questions, okay? But the thing you should keep practicing over and over and over again, like out loud in front of the mirror, is your 30-second pitch.
Yep.
So I'm going to give you my pitch of it. And actually, Jacob, do you mind if I use you as an example? Can we 100%. Role play real quick?
Yeah, for sure, man.
So, hi, Jacob. Really nice to meet you. Thanks for carving out time to interview me today.
Yeah, of course. It's great to be able to meet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Omar, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jacob, for asking. So, I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, first generation American. I went on to college, and then after college, I decided I wanted to pursue a career in medical devices. And actually, timeout. I'm gonna try and take the medical device thing out, and let me think. What did I say? I'm gonna use what I used when I got into Mazor.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Um, Man, but some people, I just feel like some people in the audience are going to make excuses like, oh, but this guy went to medical school or something. Okay, okay, hold on. I got a great example. There's a guy who literally just messaged me about getting in. I'm going to use his background real quick.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
say who the guy is. Let me bring up
100%, man.
his profile. Um,
Yeah. I love it. Well, because I can even just say, hey, I was a personal trainer. I had no sales experience, and I'm not supposed to be in this industry because that's what everybody else told me. And
Here we go.
here we go.
Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So I was born in Detroit, Michigan, but my parents were blue collar workers and everything. So, throughout my childhood, like the idea of hard work was very much instilled in me. You know, I barely graduated high school, and so I just went into getting my GED because I had to work to support my family. And so for the last 10 years, I've worked different blue collar jobs. I've worked in construction. I've worked in this, whatever this other thing is. I worked in construction and other blue collar jobs, and so now I'm ready to get into medical devices. The reason why I think I'd be a great fit is that a lot of the hobbies that I have map to that. I've spent time reading and taking open courses on MIT to learn more about technology. I spend time on LinkedIn. I follow these hashtags within the device industry, and I kind of pay very close attention to learn about what makes a physician adopt a product. And then on the side, I've really gotten into reading some books on technology adoption and persuasion, mainly because I feel that if you know how to position a product the right way and the psychology behind it, then it makes it a lot easier for them to adopt. On the weekends, I love playing like beer league baseball. I try to play a little baseball here and there. And then I'm kind of a man of God, and so on Sundays I like to go to church. I always believe that if you have a good routine and you start your day off right, then you're able to carry that positive momentum and that confidence throughout the day, no matter who you talk to. And the last thing I'll say is that while I may not have the experience, I usually find a way to make it in terms of selling, right? That's in every single job that I do, is that I find a way to understand my prospect, the problems that they have, and find a way to bring so much value that they have no choice, but they just want to do business with me. So we're going to stop there. I kind of went all over the place because I was doing this like on the fly.
Yeah.
My point is, no matter what your story is, it could be super boring. Remember the book and the example I gave. You can change your wrapper. You can convey it in a way like that, where the interviewer is going to ask you something. Oh, what was it like to have these parents?
I was just gonna say, you put
yeah,
so many gyms in there that I can ask, what was construction like? Hey, can you tell me about what it was like working with parents? Hey, can you
and
tell me what you learned here? What do you mean? How did you do sales and construction? Like all the different
yeah,
questions that can
and
come from it.
and here's why this is important. Sales is a transference of emotion. That's why I tell people, do not go work for a company you're not excited to sell their product for. So the most enthusiastic and confident you'll ever be is when somebody's asking questions about yourself. So you'll spend at least 5-10 minutes, maybe even 15, of them just asking questions about the topic you know most about. And so then your brain is already feeling relaxed, you're feeling confident. So when you get to hard questions, you handle them. And let me give you a bonus question. A bonus question. This is what I do. And actually, I told somebody to do this in an interview. After you tell me about yourself, right? And they ask like, oh, what about this? What about that? And you can tell like they're getting ready to move to the next thing. Just say, hey, Jacob, I'm really looking forward to answering your questions. Do you mind? I have one question I really want to ask. I just want to make sure that I don't forget. Do you mind if I ask you right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Just out of curiosity, like I'm very excited to learn more about the opportunity, and I want to see that if this is a fit for me. But based on my resume and my background, what made you interested to interview me? What are you most excited about in terms of my background? Time out. Now, what I did, two things. Number one, I didn't say I'm excited about this opportunity. I hope you are. I said I'm excited to learn if this is a good opportunity for me. So I'm putting myself in a position of power, even if you're desperate. The second thing is now you're going to start selling me on me. And more importantly, you're now going to, and this is the big part about psychology and persuasion negotiation, you are now revealing to me what's most important to you. In which case, I will not talk about anything else. I'm going to focus. So if you say like, oh, I really appreciate that you were a blue collar worker, you worked in construction, I really like that and everything, man, all I'm going to be doing is using that because like that's what you care about, that you literally just told me that's the thing you like the most. Yep. I'm not going to go say, oh yeah, I graduated from this. Key to selling is the moment somebody identifies what's they're interested in, you do not sell the other features. You just focus on selling that one thing.
Yep.
Forget the other stuff. It's all noise.
100%. 100%. That was such a good point, man, because that's what we talk about that in the course all the time. But like, again, you need to learn what their biggest, why they want you, right? And then make them sell to you. Because like you just said, now, when you tell them, because we get multiple offers with our people, we want to make sure this is good for us, right? When I was going through, you're a great company, Medtronic, but also I'm talking to Zimmer, Stryker, and J&J. They're also great companies. So why should I even be here? Because I know wherever I go, it will all be an asset, right? So I love that you made that point.
Treat yourself like an asset, right?
Bam. And then also to that point, the one thing I also want to just really make sure that you guys heard, because I just had this talk with several of our students because they're going through third round interviews and stuff like that right now, is just like Omar, because they don't have the sales experience, you need to control the conversation. Because otherwise, when you get on that call, they're going to just bam, bam, bam. You need to make sure to take control and then be able to lead it how you would like to. Because then you can funnel it on how you want to. And again, like I just say this, when I had no sales experience, the first thing I did was like when I went in my final with Medtronic, first thing I did, called that out. Because I knew that was the number one concern. It didn't matter what questions I had after that. That's all they're going to focus on. So I talked about it, but I said why it's a benefit, all this great stuff about it. And here, let me handle it. Now I could go into the meat and bones of all the objections early in the interview instead of wait for the last 5 minutes. And then if I don't have enough time, my VP had a jump, right? I was able to go and then go through that process and again through all of it.
I'm a big fan of handling objections. Like, I think it's important to get them out of the way and like cover like the sort of the obvious ones. My biggest thing is to always like focus on the strengths and just amplify the hell out of them. But handling those objections, if you don't find a way to do that, it's gonna come up in a conversation that you're not involved in, you know?
Exactly.
And I think, and again, if you use LinkedIn the right way, and this doesn't mean just doing the few little things in your profile, actively adding people every day, commenting, etc. If you do that, they'll come and learn about you on your page. And then by the time you get on the interview with them, they feel like the persuasion is done. It's almost like they already know who you are.
Exactly.
That's like half the battle, right? Yep. And I'll give you. Let me give you. I got another bonus because I don't talk. This is actually, I don't usually talk about this topic of the interview and everything. I actually love it. I'll give you a bonus move. Like this takes some serious like chutzpah to do. Okay, so when I was trying to move to Silicon Valley, I ended up interviewing for a robotics company that hired me. Okay. And so I did all these things. I did like that. That's a whole other episode. I need to record that episode on my own because there's like all kinds of crazy things, like levers I pulled. This company paid $10,000 just to move me from Florida to Silicon Valley. Meanwhile, they had all these people in their backyard.
Yep.
It's all this. My like slam dunk, like that was kind of the barn burner question I did was I had a final interview with the CEO. So I started with the CEO, then he had me interview with people. Final interview with the CEO. And I had one question I knew I was going to ask him. And I was so nervous. I was like 27 years old.
Yep.
And I'm interviewing with the CEO of this company. He came from a really well-known company. Like this guy's been around. And so I looked at him and I was like, he's like, what questions do you have for me? And I looked down, I was like, I actually only have one question for you because I've talked to everybody. I've researched the company. So like all my questions, it's a great product, the market, I just have one question for you. He's like, yeah, what's the question? And I was like, and I kind of leaned forward and I folded my hands and I looked down like as if I was thinking about it, like there's some theatrics to interviewing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I kind of like was shaking my head a little bit. And I put all my effort into like practicing it. I was like, everything about this company seems great. Product looks great, super impressive technology, great team and everything. But I just need to hear from you. Why would I take this job and work here? And I said that like with kind of like a slight frown on my face, like as if like I was highly skeptical. And I remember like, man, I was like on bullets. And he looked at me and he leaned forward. He's like, "You want me to tell you why you should work here?" And I was like, I leaned forward. I'm like, and I was like, yeah. I kind of like lightened it up. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I was like, why? Like, why here? And the most important thing, Jacob, about these theatrics, you have to own the silence. There's so much tension to just jump in and like just
Fill it
shut
with
the
words.
hell up.
Yep.
Yeah.
People want to fill it with words.
Exactly. Just shut the hell up and just let it sit. Again, this is why practice is so important. And he looks down. He's like, okay, rules of engagement. And I was like, oh, dude, I screwed up. He's going to rip me apart. And he starts going through this whole list. Like, here's the market. And I sat back listening and I was like, oh my God, I did it. He's selling me. He's selling me on the job. Next day, I had an offer letter for more money than I ever thought I could ever get at that point as a 27-year-old, you know?
Yep.
This is what it takes, my friends. And again, to get to that level, okay, how did I get to that point? I didn't do it by accident. I put many, many hours of studying. I reached out to people. I reached out to mentors. I took, I didn't pay them, but I took them to lunch to say like, how should I interview and everything? And I started, and again, I took all this stuff together and I'm sorry. I hate to say this. 0.0001% of you might be able to do what I did, but I had a massive amount of talent, a massive amount of diligence, and absolutely a massive amount of luck. Do not put your bet on that.
Yeah.
Like, please, for the love of God, like if you're really serious about this, like the dollars will do the talking. Most of you, I guarantee, if I audit your expenses, there's BS dinners you're going out on the weekends. There's some
alcohol.
like random alcohol. There's, things you're doing. You're taking some stupid trip, that you don't need to be taking. I guarantee you, if I audited your expenses, you can find the money there. I guarantee you, and here, like, again, like, because I'm trying to help people out. People need to have a different relationship when it comes to debt. Bad debt is like, I'm going to go buy a car. I'm going to go buy, some like luxury brand clothing. That's bad debt. You know what good debt is? I think Amex has like Amex Blue or something. It's like 0% interest for 12 months and up to like, I don't know, 5 or 10K. If you find an asset like a coach, a program, something where you're like, I know if I invest in this is going to help increase my income. Go apply for one of those credit cards, 0 interest, get that thing. I mean, unless you're an absolute idiot and you can't like implement things, you will be able to get a high return on that ROI and pay that back. Yep. Like, that's how you have to think about these things. Like, I wish there was some school on teaching people how to make entrepreneurial decisions, like with their career.
100%.
Maybe that's what you and I should start.
Yeah, that's the next course. I love it. Yeah, man, that's such a good point. And I love where you went that, because again, it's what most people just don't do is they don't think ROI. They don't think return on investment. And then they think it has to be one thing. And again, you just have to start learning what's going to be the best for you and how seriously committed are you? Because this is the last thing I can always say. You all that are, not you all, majority of you listening to this, spent 50 to 100 grand, went to college to go get a degree you didn't question at all, but you now can't use it, or you don't want to use it, and it sucks because you're now like, oh, but medical device sales is what I want to do. But you spent 50 to 100 grand to use something that you're not going to use anymore. But then you see something that gets a 30x return or whatever it is, not my program, someone else's program, whatever it is. But you're like, no, I'm too cheap and I'm going to do it my own way, but I don't know what I'm doing. I always just laugh because I can say this because if I would have been in the same spot, that is why I made my program. It's why we did payment plans. It's why I've done everything that I've done. Is we know right after getting over 800 people hired and like that, I just got an EMT hired in 2.5 weeks. Got offers from Stryker, J&J, and Arthrex. Like, we know what we're able to do and we know the results we get. But yeah, again, we'll stay off the course. We'll go more into the thing I wanted to talk about is you have a lot of resources that have helped me, that have helped change my life and helped me get where I'm going.
Thanks,
I just want to say, first off, thank you so much to you because it has made a huge difference in my life, but I know the value that it's bringing. So again, I want to touch on, because you do have a course about LinkedIn, and I know that it could be very, very helpful for a lot of people who, again, you guys, you got to stop thinking about $2, $5, $20, because I actually just made a post about this today. If I gave you a $5 bill or a $100 bill, the only value that changes is what you put on it. It's all fake. It's a piece of paper. We rip it off, and in America, we just decide to print more because we just want more. But again, you just have to find the value. But the reason I want to say is, can you kind of tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you do offer? Because I know you give a lot of your course is like, I'm so proud to be a part of it. And again, you give so much detail, so much information. And it is like, again, if you're just not lazy, which we preach all the time, and you take the action, there's nothing but results.
Yeah, no, totally. So, so my main program, I can guarantee you, like none of your listeners, A, I don't think they can afford it, but B, they're just not qualified for it. It's really for people who are. So my main program called the Medical Sales Network Effects Program. It focuses on teaching people how to sell at scale and persuade at scale and drive technology adoption using social media. But we have, we teach people how to use video sales letters. We have advanced techniques like Chat GPT. So there's 0.001% of all salespeople who even know what that is.
Yep.
And I have CEOs in that program. I have founders. I have sales reps, and we have a private network and everything. The thing actually that I'd love to offer your audience, and my recommendation personally, is spend the money to do this thing, get your LinkedIn upgraded and everything, then go and get into Jacob's program, because now you've invested into making sure that your LinkedIn is up to date, not only to help you get in, but leverage it to sell, right? Plus, like, getting into Jacob's program will excel you. So if they go to upgrademylinkedin.com,
we'll put the link in the below in the description.
Yeah, we'll put the link below. But again, you can type in, don't put it just like that. So put www.upgrademylinkedin.com, and then the code will say is new to medical device sales. That'll be the code. So new to medical device sales would be your code. And then I'll discount it so that everybody, I think it's a $297 course. I'll give it to your audience for, I think, we'll do it for like $79 or something.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So that little mini course will walk them through in a weekend, and that way, what they're able to do is upgrade their entire LinkedIn, and then learn, get some foundations of persuasion in there, right? Get their LinkedIn up and going and piping, start adding their hiring managers and all these different people. And again, this is just what I would do. Then go, I think they have to apply for your program. You don't just take everybody anymore, right?
No, yeah.
So, okay. So they got to apply for your program, get in. And aside from the fact that it'll accelerate their time in, the most important thing is after they go through my little mini course, they add people, they make their LinkedIn and everything. Then they go through your program so that they learn how to leverage that network. And then more importantly, when they have all these interviews with the hiring managers, they know how to evaluate which company they should go to based on their skill set, their career aspirations. How do they leverage a higher salary? What can they expect and everything? Because again, if you don't know these things, it's so easy to get to take advantage of it. And personally, you shouldn't feel like upset about that. That's what a business should do. Like if I invest in a business, like the business needs to look out for itself, not for like hiring an entry-level employee. I'm a big believer in overpaying people, but like when you hire an entry-level employee, like you have no idea what's going to happen with that person. Yep. Right. So, and again, like one thing I'll say is the one thing that I don't think anybody's ever said in their life is they say, where I really screwed up in my life? I bought too many books and invested in like coaches and online courses. That's where I screwed up in my life. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But look, the advice that we talked through on this is powerful. Take advantage of it, take action on it. I would love for your listeners to, follow me online. So I have a LinkedIn, I have an Instagram, I have a TikTok. I'm posting more stuff on TikTok. I have a great meme page called All Hail Medical Sales. So you find that on TikTok and Instagram. Like there's some awesome memes on there. And then in terms of just content, my LinkedIn profile, and they can check out the state of medtech. They can go to my website, Khateeb & Co. I mean, I got content all over the place.
Yep.
I have on a separate note, like my personal YouTube channel, I do a lot of book reviews and I interview a lot of cool authors, you know.
I love
But
that,
in
man.
either way, I'd love for your audience to follow me and be part of my journey because I got a lot to say, I got a lot to share, and if even some of it helps somebody make more money or hit their career aspirations, like that just makes my day.
100%. And 100. The reason I just say that to you guys is I can sit here and tell you from experience, like the Omar gets results. And then that's why I'm so thankful. And again, he's a friend, he's a mentor. He's been able to help me level up and change my life as well. Just because again, he reached out to me and he saw something in me when I was posting on LinkedIn, but he gave me some feedback on.
You're one of the few people that I was like, I like this guy's got to be in my program because he's killing it. He can be crushing it even more.
Yep. And
what was the first piece of advice I gave you, by the way, when we talked about your program, everything? Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, 100%. Just so you guys know, thanks to Omar, you guys pay a little more because I was gonna charge way less.
I told him and yeah, you guys can send me all the hate mail you want. The first thing I told Jacob, I was like, Jacob, you're charging way too low. You should be like charging a lot more for these things. And the reason why you charge more is because there is some pain. He's absolutely correct. Look, in my own course, my course used to cost like $1,900. Every time I raise my price, it becomes easier to sell and I get way better quality people that actually get results. Because as a business, that's what you need.
That's the biggest thing, like to everybody who's listening, because I can just want to just chime in. Everyone who's like, oh, scam, all this stuff, you're not quality. You are not quality. You don't see the investment. And we don't want those people in our lives anyway. Because I can sit here and tell you, I just had this talk with a buddy. All we do and all you guys do that are listening to this, try to use us. Every single message. I have 30 some messages every morning.
People run a scam on you every day, just trying to scam you out of free advice.
Exactly. Every single day I wake up and I have over 30 messages.
Advice that they're not going to take, by the way.
No, exactly. We put it out there for free, but all this LinkedIn message, I get 30 plus messages a day, and you guys are like, hey, got a job for me? Hey, anything? And you like, this is why I tell people, you don't care one bit about me. But that's what we know.
And you know what though, those people are gonna those are gonna be the lousiest salespeople. I just have to point out,
100%.
Great salespeople. This is so cliche, but it's true. Great salespeople really focus on providing value and helping their customers solve a problem outside of even their own products.
100%.
That's what great salespeople know how to. And people are, I've heard this all the time, but it's so true. Great salespeople, and I consider myself a damn good salesperson. Empathetic. They learn how to focus on the other person. And look, last week, for people who, so every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on my LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, I do like a live show. And last week I was ripping everybody a new one because there's this whole follow-up process, right? And actually, this is with the hiring method as well. When you're trying to close a deal, like there's follow-up, right? And I tell salespeople, I'm like, nobody wants to work with you, at least the ones who are struggling, because your follow-up is more about you closing the deal than about the people you're trying to do the deal with.
Preach all day long,
right?
Man. We talk about this all the time in the course. I literally just had a talk right before we got on this call, and it's all about, you never make it about you. You make it about them and how, and again, when you're trying to break in, what can you learn from them? And you know what? I just had one of our students. He's been in, like, this is where I get the most psyched. He's been in the course for 3 days. He just had an hour conversation with an area sales manager at Medtronic. And during that conversation, he said, this is the best in 15 years, the best conversation I've ever had. And it's because you're so awesome. Different. And then, again, it's what we teach in the course. But again, it goes back to what we're so big on is everybody. And this was the comment from the Medtronic rep and the area sales manager. He said, everyone calls me and asks for a job. Everyone calls me and what they can get from me.
How many? Yeah. And now, like, this is the last part. And then I have to go have dinner with my family. But like, I want to share some, like, just some thoughts on like personal development and self-development for the people who like are just so negative and they want it, there are scams out there. Absolutely. But you know what? I'll tell you, there are things out there that are actually like legit scams that I found a way to like actually learn something from them. I've learned like what not to do even. And what I'd say is like people have such a negative attitude about things. Like, I think the people who you just described, their problem is that everything is so focused on what's in it for them. Everything is focused. Yeah. Everything's focused on what's the shortcut, what's the easy way and everything. And you know what? I'll tell you. And again, I'm not like some random dude. I work with the most prestigious people in this industry. The most well-known names come on my show. The most respected people respect me, right? That's why, at least professionally, I'm very proud of my success. Is that I measure my success. Well, what's actually coming in revenue is a good indication. But the other side is like, do I have the respect of my peers?
Yeah.
Right. And I do. And what I tell you is that a lot of you just you have the wrong attitude and you're never gonna get like hired. Think about this guy you just said who's an area sales manager. Everybody is calling him to ask him for a job versus saying, hey, let me tell you why I would be an asset to you. Let me here, I'm going to provide just it's like end of day, and end of day when somebody interviews me on a podcast, I just give away all kinds of gems. Let me give another gem. Here on my desk sits a very powerful book. There's two versions of it, the long version, the short. I own both. It's called The 48 Laws of Power. This is a fantastic book about history, and Robert Greene, the author, literally documents how does the world work. And this book is extremely controversial. They've banned this in some federal prisons, actually. Like, the prisoners are not allowed to read this book. What I recommend to your listeners to do is go search the 48 Laws of Power summary, read those 48 laws, and then identify the 3 laws they violate most often. I guarantee you a lot of your listeners who they're probably really ambitious and to be good. I bet you a lot of them, they're going to violate law number 1, which is never outshine the master. Okay. And I say that because the number one way to getting hired, the number one way to moving up in your career, is part of it is being really good. But the other side of it is, how do I produce massive results and make other people look really good so that they decide, man, I'm going to, as I go higher, like, I need to pull this person with me. This person's a freaking asset to my career. When you get to a point that you've been given so much responsibility in a company that when you leave, it's like a huge issue. Like, people get livid. You've done a good job.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But most of you aren't going to reach that because all you're focused on is like, hey man, give me this big 6-figure salary. Because, like, what have you done to show that you deserve that money?
Bam. And that's why I just want to make the comment. It's because you guys are, and again, when I say you guys, I hope, like, again, it's a certain people, the people who know that they're not and they're doing it the right thing. They're like, that's not me, Jake. Like, I do this, but like, I can say the majority of people,
they don't need this podcast.
No, yeah.
Those people don't need this podcast.
Yeah. They're just selfish. And it's just like, hey, it's always about what can you get? And it's why I can sit here and tell you why you'll never be a good sales rep. And you will be like, that's not true. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You want to know why? Because exactly what Omar says, I used to set up my competitors' stuff for them. Like, they didn't know how to do it. And we had something that competed. They had another one that we didn't have. And I used to help because guess what? At that moment, it's not about me and how much money I'm making. It's about the patient on the table and what's going to be the asset in the room. You guys ask, oh, how can you be a good rep? All that. It's because I never once, and it's why I've said it a million times, and we'll say it 1,000,001 times. I've never tried to be in med device sales and be a med device rep. I've always come in and been a personal trainer. Where can I make relationships? Where can I add value? And where can I make sure that I can make an impact? Bam. We do that and we solve the problem that we're facing. Bam. It's all going to fall into place. But it's to the people who are like, how much money should I get? What can I get out of this? Because you guys, what you don't understand is what you don't offer. And the second thing and last thing I'll say is it comes from a scarcity mindset. You don't think you'll ever make more money. You don't, because that's why I'm okay with purchasing. And that's why I'm giving other
that's a good point.
Away. I sit here and say, I'm okay with spending thousands of dollars on coaching. I'm okay with buying courses because guess what? I know those skills are going to be 20x over, and guess what? I'm going to make more money because guess what?
And I can confirm that he has definitely spent thousands of dollars on coaching. I can confirm that.
And but
again, like, it's and part of it is that it's the results you get. Like, and he wouldn't continue doing that if he wasn't getting results. Like, I can guarantee you that would have been very short lived. And look, like, here's the best part. If you're listening, if you got into this point of the podcast, whether you believe in God or simulation, like, let's just say this happened specifically for you. So now the person who's listening to this right now, who's like, he's not really talking to me, I am talking to you. You probably have a bad attitude. You probably have the wrong outlook on life. But the best part is that if you're willing to make a decision to change that, right? All these books on history, go read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. You'll cry. This guy's lived in Auschwitz concentration camp with Nazis. right? He found fulfillment and meaning in life. What did that book teach me? It taught me that the power of perceptions, you get to change how you perceive things.
Yep.
And so all these things that you perceive as problems and everything, look at these as opportunities. Like, look, having difficulty getting in, hey, you get an opportunity to look at yourself and say, you know what? Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I am. Maybe I'm under illusions here, and you take a few steps back and be like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I would hire me. Maybe you got this bad attitude. Maybe you got the wrong setup. So look at that as an opportunity to say, you know what? Now I can be a student and go learn. How do I get better? How do I position myself? You know, there's another, and Jacob, shoot me an email to remind me to send you this.
Yeah.
I'll send these 2 links. They're free on Audible and Spotify. I think I had Jacob listen to this. Zig Ziglar's How to Stay Motivated.
Yep.
Listen to nothing else but that audiobook and listen to it 16 times. Like, I'm being serious. I listened to that 16 times. It took me 2 years. It taught me the power of how to be motivated, how to look at problems as opportunities, as always be open-minded, humble, that's think of it like this, is like right now, especially, this is the time to build those habits of success and habits in the mind, because that's what somebody's going to hire you on. Again, like Jacob pointed out earlier, no one's hiring you for your experience. Technically, they're going to hire based on your character, your values, your potential, all these things. And so a lot of that is like, why do you think Striker Striker hires more D1 athletes than Eddie? Do you know why that is? It's not by accident. It's because most D1 athletes have been trained on how to think team oriented. They've been trained on how to be extremely competitive, all these things. Right. And look, I think Jacob would agree with me. Early in your career, and then I really got to wrap up and go, because but
100%.
I'm having fun. We should do another one of these.
100%.
Is early in your career, you're gonna be doing one of 2 things: learning or earning. And when you do things right, you get to later in career, like when I was like my last 2 companies I worked for, I was both learning and earning. Early in your career, the mentees that I've had, back when I was mentoring a lot of people, the ones who, because I was talking to my wife about this, the ones who are making the most money right now, and I can count at least 3 or 4 of them who are under the age of 30, and they're salaried between 210 and 350. Okay. All of them pushed off making easy money first and looked at where can I get the most opportunity to learn the most, responsibility and everything. Because then you can leverage that. If all you focus on is just like, where can I make money? And you don't try and think like more long-term, a lot of that's short-lived.
That's the magic word you just said. I actually just had a call with one of my students right now. And it was, the reason we win in our course is because we don't think next week, next month, next sale. We think next quarter, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, lifetime access. Because again, I'm trying to build something. We're trying to build, what can we do today that's going to help impact our territory? What can we do today to help us get hired 3, 6, 9 weeks from now? Because I know the process. I have it down. We get it down. But even for me to get a deal done, right? The reason I've had people call me, hey, how have you had success? I never tried to do the quick sale. I never tried to do it right away. I'm building my career. So same thing. This is why I love what you just said, because everyone's like, I need to get into medical advice. I need to get into it. I need to do it. Guess what? If it doesn't matter in 5 years, it doesn't matter in 5, or don't worry about it for 5 minutes. I say that to our course for the fact of this. You guys are trying to break in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I say these weeks, but I say this to all the time in our course. What happens if you break it in 6 weeks or 15 weeks? Who cares? You broke in, right? But what if it was with the right team, the right person, and it got you in the position where it's going to make you successful 3, 5 years, 10 years from now? That's what we're worried about. And that's what we help teach and get you, compared to everybody's like, it's what Omar just said. And I hear this all the time. I have so many of you guys call me this. They rushed in. They tried to do it on their own. They didn't know what they were doing. They got it in 6 months, but they were blind. And now they're at a crappy company making no money. They don't know what to do. They're trying to make the next jump. They're trying to make the next lifeboat. And now they're just going to continue to jump and jump and jump. And they want to save money, but they're actually losing all this money because they don't know what they're doing. And they're setting themselves into a career that's only going to be a down spiral compared to the people who are winning, the people you see, the people you listen to, the people that you keep coming back for more and more advice, have been able to do it, crush it, and be where you're at, where you want to be, can give you the game plan. But nah, I'm just going to see what happens. That's the difference. What are you thinking short term? What's going to help you today? Or are you thinking long term? Because everybody, and the reason I stayed on this, and the last thing I'll say, everyone who calls me, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. I know I'm 100% in. I want to make this my career. 99% of you don't mean that, because otherwise you would think and act way differently.
That's exactly it. I couldn't have said it better, man. It's so true, man. I mean, look, like part of the reason why I came back and I'm doing what I'm doing now with the industry and everything is just like a lot of it's just a mindset thing, man.
Yep.
There's like a little bit like way too much arrogance in this industry, not enough humility and like eagerness to like learn and get better. You know, and so I hope like the person who's like listened to this podcast all the way to this point, like, you know, the way Jacob talks, and I've listened to your episodes, Jacob, and you know, you're an intense guy like me, which I think that's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
But I think it's because you genuinely care about the listener, and you're trying to be like a good older brother and kind of push them and say, hey, look, I have self-respect. You should have self-respect because I could see who you can be.
Bam. Like, I'll just sit here and tell you, it's why I did it for 2 years for free. I love every single person here, and I'm trying to tell you the hard truth that you actually need to hear. I wish somebody would have grabbed me and shook me a while ago, and I can sit here and tell you from things that happened in my own family, if I would have sat them down and had the real hard conversation, I could have saved 4 years of heartache. I could have saved all these problems. I could have not had to go through half the pain that I did if somebody would have sat down. We went through that sucky one conversation where there would have been tears, there would have been heartache, and it would have sucked for about 3 days. But then the rest of our lives would have moved on. But everyone's passive aggressive. Everybody doesn't want to actually take on the problem. And that's why people listen to me and they're like, wow, you get so passionate, you get it. Because I know if you just listened and did what I said, you would change your freaking life. But you're too arrogant and you're going to go through so much pain and so much time and you're going to prolong it and just be lost for the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Again, you guys all think when you hear this and you're like, oh no, he's just trying to make money. I put out over 140 episodes for free. I put out 1,000 articles, TikToks, everything you can do for free. If I was really that money hungry, I wouldn't do any of that. I would make you guys pay for everything.
Well, and dude, like here's the other thing is like, you know, this is like your side gig, man. Like you work for a company. You're actually very successful at it too, you know? And so like, you're not hurting, you know?
No.
And again, like, look, because I do this full time, you know,
Yep.
so I have a course, but I do advising, I do all these things. So like on my course, like I've been asked like, hey man, like, so my main course, depending on what month it is, like the cheapest it's ever been is $3,000. Right. So some people ask me like, dude, why don't you make it more affordable? Why don't you make it like $500? And my answer to that is 2 reasons. Number one, quality of student will go down, but let's say the quality isn't there. At the same time, you know what, man, I'm a business owner. I need to charge what it's actually worth so that I can invest in the product and make it better. Like, look, the product has like, you know, we have live calls, we have special guest speakers. There's you know, fees to host these things. Like all this stuff isn't for free.
No, exactly.
You know?
That's what people forget. And I say this all the time in my course, and you are the same way. If you actually value, or if you actually did and you put all the hours that you get in, you actually lose money. Like I say here all the time, if I charge my hourly rate, and if I charge my hourly rate with how many people, I've already been on the call with 3 people today. Like if I charge my hourly rate, what I'm making doing medical device sales, I'm losing money. But that's not what it's about. It's about making impact, helping people. And then, like you said, every dollar I make, how do you think we are able to provide so much value, make so much content, be able to put out all these articles while I'm still working a full time and running the Western United States, just like you? You have to be able to invest in it so we can get the best results for our people.
Yeah. And again, like, you know, what I would tell people, like, you know, and this is just, again, something else I wish somebody else told me is when I was younger, you know, I spent so much time outside of my job trying to do things like day trading or like, what else? Like selling random things. So all those things are fine. But the number one thing that you should be maximizing is your income earning potential and what the hell you do for a living.
Yep.
I would like immediately, the moment that I did that like 5 or 6 years into my career, my income went up like 30 or 40%, like insane. And I remember thinking, I'm like, geez, why didn't I just do that? Because that actually, you know, like
made the biggest impact on your life.
Cause you know what? Like, I'll tell you, like, let's say it's just like day trading, or like some people, they want to get into real estate. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But do you really think you're talented enough that you're going to spend what 20% of your time or 10% of your time a week on this one thing. Meanwhile, there's hundreds of other people who are dedicated. They're all in on this one thing, on real estate investing or something 100% of time. You think somehow you're like, you're going to get lucky. So again, like, this is how people need to think. They got to think about, where am I going to spend my time? And again, like, even in work, when I was working at Mazor Robotics, one of the leaders gave me advice, and he's like, you should spend more time, like, go to a course and learn how to use Excel and everything. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Until I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, why would I spend time to get from like mediocre to slightly better in Excel versus investing in what I'm really good at, which is marketing and selling? And I was like, how do I go from really, really good to like world-class and top 1%? So like the quality of questions you ask yourself is going to reflect the quality of life you're going to live. So again, ask yourself these questions, like, why am I not getting hired? Why am I struggling so much? Right. And really ask yourself those hard questions. I would recommend go ask people that you're close to who know you really well, and tell them, like, hey, just give me I need some like very candid feedback. Why do you think it's this? And tell them, like, I don't need you to sugarcoat it. Like, please be serious. And the people to go ask, right? They're going to tell to you, and it's going to hurt. It's going to make you upset. But in that truth, like, you'll find freedom if you choose it.
Amen, man. That is where we end it right there. I
there
love
we go.
that
Because we'll go another 2 hours.
Again, now we can just keep going, man. Omar, again, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day, man, and your evening. I know you're not with your family right now, eating dinner. So just want to, again, say thank you so much. And again, just providing value to the listeners. And just last thing, again, I just want you to plug yourself one more time so they know where we go, because I know we're a little later in the podcast.
Yeah. So again, for the and I just created the link. Go to www.upgrademylinkedin.com. You can use the code new to medical device sales. Okay.
Any spaces or no spaces?
No spaces. It's all one thing. And I'll give you the link that just automatically takes them there. Online, just look me up. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, just Omar M. Khateeb. And the last thing, look up the state of medtech. I got some damn good episodes with like really big leaders. Former CEO of Medtronic, the Antoine Papernick, investor of the biggest venture firm in Europe. Like, we got a lot of sales episodes. Go check out the state of medtech. And if you haven't done it yet, be sure you give Jacob 5 stars and write a review. If you've been a listener, you haven't done that yet, shame on you. And then go and do that for me as well. Do that on Spotify and Apple, because we're trying, between our 2 shows, we're just going to dominate like the healthcare sales podcast space.
You got that right, baby. That is the goal, and that's the dream. But man, thank you so much again. I appreciate you. And to everyone listening, again, always appreciate the support. Like Omar said, please go to both of our channels, and 5-star review helps us grow. Like and subscribe, because again, it's how we grow this and be able to make bigger impact. And then again, as you guys heard several times throughout today's show, again, we now want coaching. Again, we only allow 5 people in. We have been being more choosy, and we are being very more strict on who we allow in, because again, we know the results we get. We know we're getting a 30x return in under 10 weeks. We know that we're going to help change your life, and we're going to help you get through your career and just advance much faster. So again, if you guys are interested, please feel free to reach out to me. The one thing I'll say is reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you cannot find me on LinkedIn for some reason, reach out to me on Instagram, New to Medical Device Sales, or Jacob McLaughlin Fitness. I have 2 Instagrams there. Again, TikTok, New to Medical Device Sales, everywhere else, YouTube. Again, but I really appreciate you guys. I thank you so much for staying with us, and we will see you on the next one.